It started with a simple act of kindness on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Trey Johnson was tired. His hoodie was damp from the drizzle, his earbuds were low on battery, and his bus ride home from school had been, as usual, long and crowded. He wasn't in the mood to smile or talk or even think. He just wanted to sit, let the rumble of the city bus lull his mind, and make it back to his grandmother's apartment in one piece. The streets of Baltimore had a way of wearing you down if you weren't careful. But then he saw her. She stepped on the bus slowly, one hand on her swollen belly, the other gripping the rusted pole for balance. Her hair was messy like she hadn't slept, her eyes red like she'd cried too much and too recently. Trey noticed she didn't look at anyone. She didn't ask. She just stood there, swaying a little as the bus pulled off. People stared at their phones, looked away, pretended not to see her, and something in him just clicked. He stood up without a word and gave her his seat. No grand speech, no ma'am, no fuss. Just a nod, and then he stepped back, standing between two strangers who barely noticed. She looked at him for a moment, surprised. Then she sat, whispering, "Thank you," like it hurt to speak. That's when everything changed. She reached into her worn-out purse, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and handed it to him. "You don't know what you just did," she said, her voice breaking. "But maybe this will help you understand." Trey blinked, confused, as the note crinkled in his fingers. She didn't explain. She didn't say another word. Just held her belly and stared out the window like the city was some distant memory. He waited until he got off at his stop, ducked under the leaky awning outside his building, and finally unfolded the note. What he read didn't make sense. Not at first. Coordinates, strings of numbers that didn't match anything he recognized. A date that hadn't happened yet. A series of words in capital letters, bold and terrifying. When they call, answer. Humanity must unleash its true power. And then at the bottom, black, white, human. This is bigger than all of us. Earth needs to remember who it is. He thought it was a joke, some weird prank. Maybe she was mentally ill, or just desperate. But the thing that kept him up that night, more than the words, more than the feeling in his chest, was the paper itself. It wasn't normal. It wasn't paper, not really. It shimmered faintly in the dark like something printed with starlight. And it was warm. By morning, the world had already started to change. A burst transmission hit Earth's deep space array in Siberia. It was a language no one recognized, not at first, but the math embedded in it. That was unmistakable. Prime numbers, universal constants, timestamps matching the coordinates from Trey's note. An alien distress signal. A cry for help, but not just a cry, a plea. The message came with a holographic signature, grainy, full of static, but clear enough to see what mattered. A figure, humanoid, battered, eyes wide with terror. And behind her, ships, enormous, monstrous, not like anything human engineers had ever built, spiked like bones, moving like shadows, and they were tearing through stars like they were paper. The transmission ended with one phrase, repeated in a synthetic voice that somehow sounded, "Frayed, to the Deathworlders of Earth, we beg you, help us. You are our last hope." That's when the UN called an emergency meeting. The term Deathworlders triggered a Level 1 classification audit, because that word wasn't unknown. It had shown up in intercepted interstellar communications before. Whispers from species that had long gone silent. Warnings. Stories about the planet of monsters, a blue-green world teeming with life so hostile, it shaped its inhabitants into apex predators of physics, biology, and willpower. The galaxy had a name for Earth. They called it Hell's Forge. And for reasons no one could yet explain, the cry for help had been sent here. To humans, but not to world leaders. Not to NASA or the military. It was sent to a kid on a bus. To Trey. And that's when they found him. They showed up at his school in black SUVs, no markings. Not feds, not military. Something else. He was called to the office. And when he got there, 3 people in dark suits and clear badges sat waiting. One woman leaned forward, smiled gently, and said, "Trey Johnson, we need to talk about your note." He ran. Of course he ran, wouldn't you? But they didn't chase him. They didn't need to, because a second transmission had already come. Through, this time directly to his phone, coordinates again. This time not in space. In Montana, an old government facility decommissioned in the late 90s, off-grid, buried under layers of rock and ice. And above it, a beacon, pulsing like a heartbeat. Something had been left for Earth. Something locked. Something old. And Trey had the key. But this isn't just a story about a teenage boy and a mysterious note. This is the story of how a simple act of kindness, giving up a seat on a rainy day, unlocked the greatest force the galaxy had ever feared. It's about the true nature of humanity, about a species forged in hardship, tempered by compassion, and capable of unthinkable power when pushed to the edge. It's about the moment the stars screamed for help, and Earth finally answered. But what Trey would soon discover, what none of them could have predicted, is that answering the call wouldn't just save others. It would wake up something sleeping deep beneath Earth's surface, something ancient, something not even humanity fully understood. And the question wasn't whether humans would fight. It was whether the galaxy was ready for what happened when they did. And as for that woman on the bus, she wasn't just pregnant, she was carrying the first hybrid child Earth had ever unknowingly hosted, and her time was running out. So Trey had a choice: ignore the impossible, or step into a war that would make every human story, every myth, every legend seem like a bedtime tale. Because the real monsters weren't out there, they were coming here. And Earth was done hiding. Trey didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay on his back, staring up at the cracked ceiling, the note still clutched in his hand, the paper strangely warm against his skin. His phone buzzed with notifications. None from friends. No memes. No texts about school. Just that one strange video. The transmission. He'd saved it before it vanished. A message from something not human, begging Earth for help. For his help. His heart kept pounding like he was running even though he hadn't moved in hours. By morning, something felt different. The city was quiet. Not in the usual way where folks kept to themselves or wore headphones to block the noise. This was deeper. Cars moved slower. People looked up more, like they could feel the weight of something about to happen. Like they knew, even if they couldn't say it. Trey checked the paper again. The words hadn't changed. That shimmer across the surface, like it was made of starlight and heat. It hadn't faded, and the letters still glowed faintly at the edges. When they call, answer. Humanity must unleash its true power. He stuffed it into his backpack and walked to school like nothing had happened. He didn't know what else to do. What was he supposed to tell people? That he gave up his seat and now the fate of the galaxy was in his hands. But that woman on the bus, she hadn't been normal either. He couldn't shake her eyes. They looked too deep, like she had seen things Trey couldn't even imagine. And the way she spoke, that tiny tremble in her voice, like she was barely holding something together, he kept hearing it in his head, over and over. You don't know what you just did. The school day crawled by. None of the teachers noticed anything, or if they did, they didn't say it out loud. Trey sat in class pretending to take notes, but his mind kept circling the same drain. The Montana coordinates, the strange agents, the alien message, the ships, the galaxy called Earth, a death world. That wasn't some video game thing. It was real, like an official designation in alien databases, and it meant one thing. Earth was dangerous. The humans who'd grown up here, even more dangerous. But why? He didn't feel dangerous. He didn't feel like anyone special. He was just a kid from West Baltimore trying to stay out of trouble and graduate. He hadn't seen space, hadn't even left the East Coast. But someone, something out there had found him. Not the president, not a scientist, him. After school, he didn't go home. He hopped the fence by the stadium and cut through the back streets until he reached the park. It was one of those places people avoided after dark, but Trey had always liked the quiet there. It gave him space to think. That's where he found her again, the woman from the bus, sitting on the same bench he always used, her hands on her belly, face tilted toward the low gray sky like she was listening for something far away. "You came," she said before he even opened his mouth. Trey froze. "What? How did you?" She turned, smiled weakly. "I'm not supposed to be here long. They'll find me soon. But I needed to see you again." "Who are you?" he asked, stepping closer. "What is this? The note? The message? Why me?" She looked up at him, and this time there were no tears in her eyes. "Just resolve. Because you're human. And because you still chose to be kind, even when no one was watching. That's what the galaxy doesn't understand about your kind. You don't need orders. You don't need profit. Sometimes you just do the right thing." "That doesn't explain anything," he said, voice shaking. "What is this? Are you even human?" She didn't answer right away. She looked around the park like she could see ghosts walking the path. Finally, she said, "My name is Elira. I wasn't born on Earth. Not fully. My mother was from a system you call Epsilon Eridani. My father, he was one of yours. A Marine. He died saving a colony most humans never knew existed. The child I carry will be the firstborn fully of both worlds." Trey's mouth opened, but no words came out. She nodded at the silence. "There's a war coming, Trey, not one of nations, not about territory or politics, it's about existence. There are things out there that consume light, that twist time, that erase civilizations like brushing dust off a table. And the only reason they haven't come here yet is because they're afraid of Earth. Afraid of what it means for humans to remember who they are. But what does that have to do with me? You were chosen, not by me, by something older. A signal embedded in the stars. An ancient lock tied to the DNA of this world. You carry the sequence. Your kindness activated it. That doesn't make any damn sense," Trey muttered, pacing now. "I'm just a kid. I don't even have straight A's. I'm not some chosen one." "You're human," Elira said, standing slowly. "That's enough." Then she looked up. Her eyes narrowed. "They're here." Trey turned. Black cars, no sirens, no flashing lights. Just smooth, quiet machines that shouldn't be that fast or that quiet. They moved like predators. Elira grabbed his hand. "You need to go to Montana, the place from the coordinates. There's something waiting for you there. Something only you can open." "What about you?" Trey asked, already backing away. "I'll buy you time, but run." The word hit him like a gunshot, so he ran, feet slamming pavement, heart threatening to burst. The city blurred past. Somewhere behind him he heard tires screech, voices yelling, maybe gunfire. But he didn't look back, because the stars had called, and Earth was about to answer. He just didn't know yet what that answer would cost.